Chapter 2. Billy's Sharp Lesson. It was a hot Saturday morning and Lilith had opened her magic shop, the Wise Witch, earlier than usual. She felt tired after tossing and turning during the night. Her thoughts had been filled with the Serpent of Anata. Isabel, who helped her on Saturday and also had lessons from Lilith in magic and spells, sat on the wooden stool behind the counter, resting her elbows on the glass top. She drifted off to a land of pharaohs and evil priestesses. She was soon distracted and brought back to reality by a high-pitched, whining voice. "But Mum," sulked the teenage boy. It was Billy Smith and his mother, Sandra. "I don't want to come in here. Gives me the creeps," he said suddenly. Sandra looked fed up with Billy's constant moaning and lightly swiped the top of his head. "Stop whining, Billy boy, or I'll give you something to cry about. You're really getting on me nerves," she complained. Billy stubbornly huffed and puffed, and his red, sunburnt cheeks glowed. "I'm hungry, ain't I? When are we going to go home and eat?" "God, give me strength," said Sandra, screwing up her face in frustration. "It's only 11 o'clock. You'll explode one of these days. No wonder your button keeps popping off your school trousers. They hardly fit you now, and I ain't buying another pair. I can't afford it, son." Billy curled his trembling lip as if he was about to cry. But it was only a ploy to get his mother to take pity on him. Sandra endeavoured to be strict with him, but underneath her harsh exterior she was putty in his hands. "Oh, all right then, son," she relented, ruffling his short blonde hair. "Let your poor mum have a look round this lovely shop and then I'll buy you a big jam donut. How's that sound?" A smug, victorious expression swept across Billy's face. "Hello, Izzy." "I dunno," she smiled. "He knows how to pull me old heartstrings." Isabel managed to force a smile. Feeding Billy a large plate of healthy green salad and teaching him a lesson in manners was long overdue, she thought to herself, and she'd love to be the one to do it. "How are you, Sandra?" asked Lilith, watching Billy closely as he sifted through a selection of cards in the freestanding rack. "Can't complain, not too bad," replied Sandra, sounding as though she had only divulged a small part of how she really felt inside. Isabel waited for Sandra to tell Lilith what had been troubling her. "Well," she whispered, "not good really. You see, me husband's just lost his job and we're a bit broke at the moment. I'm worried about it, to tell you the truth." Looking at Sandra's inquiring expression, Isabel suspected that a question would shortly follow. "Do you think you could do a bit of, candle magic and wish for money to help us out a bit?" It was strictly against the rules for a witch to wish for money, but it was acceptable for wish for success or the means to attract money. Lilith didn't want Sandra believing that money would appear on a magic tree at the bottom of the garden. "Well, Sandra," said Lilith, carefully choosing her words, "I suppose I could give you a spell to help your husband find work." "A spell? I need an elephant to kick his bum into action," said Sandra angrily. "I don't have the money to feed an elephant." Isabel glanced at Billy and smiled. "I understand what you mean, Sandra," she said, walking towards a box and selecting a green candle. "There you are. On the next waxing moon, burn this candle and chant, 'In all that I am blessed will bring me success.'" "Yeah? And what then?" asked Sandra eagerly. "That's all, Sandra. Just concentrate and imagine you and your family happy and successful," said Lilith. "Cool, that sounds really cool, Mum," said Billy, thoughtlessly spinning the card stand until it nearly toppled over. "Oi, stop doing that, son," snapped Sandra. "I'll try. You never know, I might end up being a successful businesswoman like you, Lilith." Sandra proudly straightened her round shoulders. "Yeah, and then you could open a sweet shop, Mum," Billy said dreamily, thinking of all the chocolate he could eat to his heart's content and bristling with excitement at the thought. Sandra gratefully drew her near-empty purse from her tatty handbag. Lilith kindly held up her hand, declining Sandra's dwindling money. "It's okay, Sandra. This one's on us. Just keep us posted," she said. "Ah, thanks, ladies. You're very kind," said Sandra, turning to Billy. "Oi, I won't tell you again. Stop turning that card stand," she said tersely. "We're off to get your donut now, son." She reached out to Isabel, giving her a suffocating bear hug that almost took her breath away. She then pinched Billy's ear, marching him away from his mischief-making. He pulled the ugliest of faces, even though it didn't hurt at all. Lilith understood that Sandra wasn't a white witch, but hoped that her encounter with candle magic might encourage her to think positively. She herself would cast a spell and help the Smith family obtain a little luck in their lives, and if Sandra believed that the spell had been her first magical achievement, her low spirits would be lifted. Billy stood outside the cake shop, licking his pursed lips, peering at the tray of sweet, sugary doughnuts. He looked for the biggest and jammiest on the silver tray. Then he spotted Pandora, who was in his class at school, inside the shop, and pressing his wet lips against the window and squashing his nose, he pulled a hideous face. Pandora defiantly poked out her tongue. "Billy boy," said Sandra angrily, "don't do that or you won't get your donut." Billy abruptly ceased his antagonistic behaviour. "Here's your money, now go in and don't muck about. I'll meet you at the fruit and veg shop in 5 minutes. Sandra sauntered off to buy the family's fruit for the week. It often lay untouched in a wicker basket on the kitchen table, gradually turning mouldy, but at least she tried. "Hello, Pam Boring," sniped Billy. "What cake you buying? A sticky bun?" he said, grinning. "No, actually," she replied indignantly. "I'm rather partial to a chocolate eclair." "Oh, here's one," said Billy in a posh, sarcastic voice, sticking his stubby nose in the air. Pandora threw him a filthy look. "Oh, shut up," she scowled, politely taking her fresh cream cake. "Make sure you eat it with a knife and fork like posh girls do," chuckled Billy, deeply satisfied with his taunting. Pandora glared at Billy. Why was he so thick, she thought. Tormenting a powerful, fully fledged white witch such as herself wasn't advisable. Billy had to learn a painful lesson with a sting in its tail. "I'll have that one," Billy said, pointing his finger. The shop assistant, accustomed to Billy's greed his way, patiently bagged his donut. Nah, I've changed my mind. That one's bigger. Yeah, definitely bigger." The exasperated shop assistant waved her silver tongs directly in front of his face, wanting to pinch off his nose. She furiously disposed of his first choice and slipped a donut of the same size into the bag. "I hope you enjoy your donut," said Pandora slyly as she left the shop. "And the jam is not too sharp for you," she smirked. "Yeah, I will," said Billy. "Stupid girl," he muttered under his breath. "Girls always say the stupidest things." Billy steered clear of where Pandora was headed, pretended to look in different shop windows until meeting his mother. "Got your donut, son?" she asked. "That's good. Now, let's go on. Mr. Spuds just said that the moon's going to be really big tonight and I want to do me smell. Now, don't tell your father, will you, or he'll think I'm completely lost me marbles and he ain't keen on all this witch stuff." "Only if I can have a donut," said Billy, cleverly grasping a golden opportunity to manipulate his mother. Sandra instantly stopped Billy in his tracks and threw him one of her "don't you even think about it" looks, which normally did the trick. Billy cowered fearfully, afraid he would get a swift clip round the ear. Later that evening, and after a meal of dozens of fatty chips, greasy fried eggs and sugary baked beans, Mr. Smith settled in his usual place in front of the television, the remote control stuck firmly to his side as if it was a pistol in a gun holster. No one ever dared change channels without his permission. It was more than their life was worth. Sandra fetched a piping hot cup of tea for her husband, who continued watching television as though she was invisible. "I'm just going out into the garden, Frank," said Sandra. Frank replied with a lazy grunt, too engrossed in his regular programme to answer her. His eyes were heavy and his belly full. He would soon fall fast asleep and stay asleep right up until bedtime. If miraculously he woke during the evening, he usually trundled off to the kitchen, grabbed the nearest cake out of the cupboard, and then returned to his armchair. Seconds after eating, he would fall into another heavy sleep. "Great," said Sandra unhappily. "I could drop dead in this house and they wouldn't notice I'd gone until there was no grub on the table." She gazed at the full moon. "Oh, isn't it lovely?" she sighed. "I suppose it does look like wax. That's probably why witches call it the waxing moon." Carrying her improvised tools that she had popped into a carrier bag, she headed for the garden shed where it was secluded and quiet. Fumbling in the darkness, she switched on the light. "That's much better now. I can see what I'm doing." "Wretched cobwebs," she said, brushing them away. "It's like a hotel for spiders in here." Sandra took out her candle, a small box of matches, a folded triangular newspaper, an improvised witch's hat, and a wooden spoon, her wand. Unfolding Billy's fishing chair, she carefully sat down. "Now, what did Izzy say? Oh, yeah, in all that I'm blessed will bring me success." Sandra put the newspaper on her head and practised waving her wand. Once satisfied she was doing everything correctly, she tentatively lit the green candle. Meanwhile, Billy admired the large jam donut that his mother had insisted he only ate after his dinner. His heart pounded excitedly. His eager mouth watered at the thought of tucking into his donut, oozing with jam and stodginess. He dipped his fingers into the sugary white bag and gently took out his masterpiece. "Quaw," he said, minutely examining the glistening donut. "It's bloody lovely. I could eat hundreds of these, I could." It was time for Billy to savour each and every tantalising morsel. He opened his jaws as wide as a hippopotamus and bit hard. The slippery, sweet jam trickled down his throat, and then suddenly there was a loud buzzing sound coming from the end of his nose. Staring into his eyes was a huge yellow and black striped wasp. Billy's eyes grew as wide as saucepan lids, and Pandora's last words echoed in his mind. "I hope the jam is not too sharp," she had said. Billy's heart thumped loudly like a bass drum. He hated wasps, and, big as he was, he usually panicked, flapped his arms and ran away from the small insect. Billy's jaws locked, and he was in two minds whether to release it or turn round and run screaming to his preoccupied mother. The latter sounded much more appealing, but before Billy had time to flee for his life, the wasp appeared to devilishly wink one eye and grin at him. Perhaps he's a friendly wasp, thought Billy optimistically, but suddenly the wasp raised its long, pointed sting into the air and then forcefully stung Billy's nose. He let out a high-pitched scream. His eyes overflowed with tears and the donut dropped from his mouth, landing on the dirty tiled floor of the kitchen. His hot, bright red nose instantly swelled to the size of an orange and throbbed painfully. He cupped his trembling hands around it, running out into the garden and frantically searching for his mother to come and take care of it. "Now," said Sandra, staring at the flickering flame of the candle, "Lilith said concentrate on me family having everything." She gracefully poised her wooden spoon just as the glowing candle, just above. "In all that I am blessed will bring me success," she stated confidently. At that moment, Billy's pitiful cries for help grew louder and louder as he approached the shed. "Mum!" he shouted pitifully. "Mum! Where are you?" "What is it now?" asked Sandra in extreme frustration. "Can't I have any peace around here?" She concentrated hard, trying to ignore him. "In all that I am blessed will bring me success," she repeated. The candle sparked and fizzed. "Mum!" continued Billy. "I've been stung on my nose by a massive wasp." He angrily thumped the shed door. "Mum! If you don't come out, I'm going to die," he whimpered. "How can I concentrate with this racket going on?" Sandra said heatedly. "Stop trying to disturb your mother, Billy boy." "But Mum," insisted Billy, "I'm telling the truth. Honest I am," he said, banging the door with his clenched fist. He thumped so hard that it unexpectedly flew open. With a wooden spoon in her hand and aggravated by Billy's childish tantrum, Sandra sprang to her feet. "I wish you'd have some manners," she hollered. At that, the flame of the candle grew longer and longer. It spat and crackled noisily, changing from yellow to pink to blue and then green. Sandra and Billy froze to the spot, unable to believe their eyes. Without warning, the elongated flame shot upwards like a powerful flamethrower. It continued its journey right through the roof, completely blowing a large, gaping, smouldering hole. Sandra was speechless, and Billy momentarily forgot about his throbbing nose, cautiously poking her head through where the roof had once been. And with her mouth wide open, Sandra stared at the night sky. "Well, blow me down," she gulped, totally flabbergasted. "What happened here then?" "Who cares?" said Billy, not in the least bit interested in his mother's stupid spell. "Look at me nose, it's killing me. That horrid Pandora put a curse on me. I know she did." "Did she, son?" said Sandra vacantly. "That's a shame." "What's the matter with you, mother?" asked Billy. "You've gone all funny." Sandra looked as though she had fallen into some kind of strange trance. She stared blankly at Billy's nose. "What's the matter with your nose, son?" she asked. "Looks ever so sore." "What, you've only just noticed? I've been calling you for ages," he said impatiently. He looked into Sandra's eyes, puzzled by her reply. Taking a deep breath, she quickly composed herself. Have you, son?" "Oh, let's go inside. Mummy will put some TCP on it for you." Slipping her soft, warm hand into Billy's, Sandra led him back to the house. He continued to moan and groan about Pandora's curse, and that his nose was sure to drop off in the night while he slept. Fortunately for everyone, Billy's nose stayed on his face, but an unexpected surprise was in store for his doting mother.